And what is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the vlog. Once again, we're living in some crazy times as we're all kind of quarantined, living through this pandemic together. Yeah, I don't know. I figured this would be a good time to do a video about this. Right now, actually, the Challenger is gone. Challenger's gone, but we have the Jeep here as the wife. She took it to work. Still trying to figure out what's going to happen with her car. Don't fully know if we're going to get something else, get something different. We're still looking at a couple different options. As you guys did see the last video, we did go car shopping. She was looking at a Stinger. That's a possibility, but also there's some other cars that could be in contention. So we're still not 100% sure what we want to do with that. But, wait a minute. What'd you grab? Legion? What is this? Oh my god. So we're still not 100% sure what we're gonna do about that. So we're still kind of looking at what our possibilities and what our options are. Everything's a little bit crazy right now because it's quarantine and we can't go and just test drive cars. So it's kind of weird, the dealerships, the way they're doing things. They said that they can only sell cars online only. Like, we've been able to go to dealerships and like look at their lot, but we can't go inside the car to test drive them. So things are a little bit crazy with that. So we're still trying to figure out what's the best option for that. But you know what, we're not talking about that. We're talking about rear-wheel drive cars and what's kind of the whole like big deal, and like why some people are like, you can't drive a rear-wheel drive car, they're terrible, you're gonna just like kill yourself. And like kind of like just what are my thoughts on rear-wheel drive cars, which oddly enough, I just thought about that. The Stinger is a rear-wheel drive car. You can get it in all-wheel drive as well, but you know, you can get the base model inside rear-wheel drive, which to me, that is my preferred method of driving. But really quickly, so rear-wheel drive cars, now if you guys don't know, I mean most of you guys should know, but in the past, all the cars were rear-wheel drive cars, like up until like the 50s. Most of, like literally every car was rear-wheel drive. When they realized you could put the front engine with the transmission and everything all in the front and have the drive wheels in the front as well, it basically it eliminated the need for having like a drivetrain going to the rear wheels, and you can like fit more stuff inside the actual cabin, so you didn't need to have like a transmission tunnel inside the car. So it allowed for it to be made, you know, slightly cheaper, and it was just like easier to make. So most cars in the past were all rear-wheel drive cars, and even like in the 70s, most cars, like in American cars, they were rear-wheel drive cars. It wasn't until things became much more cheaper for them to make front-wheel drive cars, that's when they started making front-wheel drive cars. So it's not like a new concept of driving rear-wheel drive as a daily driver or in snow or anything like that. People did it all the time before in the past. It's just that now rear-wheel drive cars are more of a, it's definitely a lot harder to find a rear-wheel drive car versus getting a front-wheel drive car. Personally, like I said, I personally like the way rear-wheel drive feels now. I've had a couple cars that are rear-wheel drive. My Camaro was rear-wheel drive. My first Jeep Wrangler was rear-wheel drive. It wasn't a four-wheel drive. It was just a rear-wheel drive only. This Challenger and my other Jeep was also another rear-wheel drive vehicle as well. And even inside like the more other like trucks and SUVs that I've driven, they've all been rear-wheel drive bias. So that means that the rear-wheel drives, that's the main powering wheels, but you can, if it does have an all-wheel drive system, the front wheels will engage and help. Or if it has quote-unquote four-wheel drive, the rear-wheel drive, the rear wheels are the driving wheels, and the front wheels you can put it in four-wheel drive, and then you can lock it in four-wheel drive, so the front wheels will spin as well. But me personally, I just enjoy the way rear-wheel drive feels now over front-wheel drive. I even prefer it inside snow and in ice, just because, well, snow, ice, and rain, just because for myself, I've been driving with this driving dynamics for such a long time now that it's just my preferred method. The nice thing about rear-wheel drive is that from a takeoff or from a launch, even if you're just, you know, normally driving, the good thing is though, the rear wheels is the actual wheels that are pushing you forward. Now, the way the car is set up, when it's, you know, normally you just stopped, but when you take off, the weight transfers to the back, and it transfers to the back, and it literally puts all the pressure over the rear wheels, and that's what gives you the grip and allows you to actually, you know, move forward. Now with front wheel drive, since the front wheels are the wheels that are actually giving you the power, and it's also the wheels that's steering you as well, when you take off from a launch, the weight is still transferred to the rear. So it's harder, it's not, I don't want to say it's harder to get a good launch, it's just that your front wheels aren't going to keep all the weight over them, even though your engine transmission is usually going to be right over the front wheels. But when you take off from a launch, the weight is still transferred to the rear. Now, the bad thing about rear-wheel drive, which bad and good, is called oversteer. Now, oversteer is essentially, since the rear wheels are what's powering the car, if you're coming around a turn, now it will essentially oversteer if you know, because of the front wheels are turning and steering you, the rear wheels are still powering you, so it can swing it around like a pendulum and it'll swing the back around. That's what we call oversteer. Now, oversteer, the one nice thing about it is that's essentially drifting. Like, you know, the drifting events, that's what they do. It's a cool thing, it's the coolest feeling to have when actually, you know, the rear wheels are just spinning and, you know, going out, but it's not necessarily the fastest way to go around a track or the fastest way to complete something. It is very stylish, but it's not the fastest way. Inside front wheel drive cars, whenever the front wheels, they break traction, that causes you to understeer. So essentially, the front wheels they still need to turn and power the car. If they lose traction, they can't control the car as well, and that can cause you to understeer. And that's a terrible feeling as well, because when you're trying to have a driving input and like the car is just not doing it. So that's, that is a more scary feeling to have when you're understeering. You're like, crap, I'm going to hit this wall because I can't get out of this corner. Now, don't get me wrong, both cars, like both rear and front wheel drive, they can do them both. Like they can oversteer and understeer. You can have those, you can have that inside both of them. And it's at all-wheel drive cars, you can have the thing where it's like both at the same time, where it feels like you're crap walking. But this is mostly for more spirited driving, when you're driving on track or you're doing much more, like you're going out there and you're going ham as at like the canyons. This isn't necessarily like day to day. If you're just, driving around, on the streets, you're not going to be oversteering and understeering, typically speaking, unless you're doing something completely wrong. But that's, that's mostly for if you're doing more advanced driving. But with that in mind, that's the reason why I feel like a lot of people, they get more scared whenever you tell them like, okay, I have a rear-wheel drive car. A lot of people say you won't be able to handle it. You won't be able to control it. I don't find that the case. The case is, though, truly, once you understand the characteristics of a car and the way it drives, you learn and you adapt to it. Like for me personally, I like rear-wheel drive, like I said, and I don't necessarily like the way front-wheel drive feels anymore. Especially now, especially if you're gonna say like a faster front-wheel drive car, it does have that torque steer. That's essentially, it's the same thing, kind of like understeer, but not really. It's really like the front wheels are, since the front wheels have to steer and put power down, as it's trying to put the power down, the car can snap really hard in one direction, like left or right. That's torque steer. In rear-wheel drive cars, you typically don't get that. I mean, you can have some little, hiccups and stuff like that, which really have to do is let out and then go back into it. If it starts to get squirrely, same thing you can do inside front-wheel drive cars. Once again, like I mean though, it can happen in both cars, except for rear-wheel drive cars, it has to be like really fast for you to get that type of feeling. But in front-wheel drive cars, anything like over like three something horsepower, you can definitely get a lot of torque steer. For a car, you want to know, should you get rear-wheel drive or front-wheel drive? If you're just choosing between those two, most people will say don't get rear-wheel drive, because they're going to tell you, they're going to give you all these different reasons why you shouldn't do it. They're going to say it's going to be too hard to control, it's going to be more dangerous, it's going to be this and that. But in all actuality, now this is my personal opinion, I could be wrong about this because I'm only human, but my personal opinion, I feel that most people only say that just because there truly is, if you look at the actual amount of cars that are on the road, there is a larger number that are front-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive cars. Most rear-wheel drive cars are more performance-oriented, or they're more performance vehicles. They're not necessarily just your standard vehicle, unless they are a truck, like a physical truck, like a body-on-frame truck. Most of the actual cars, they're all going to be performance vehicles. Most people don't drive performance vehicles as their daily driver. So most people out there, they're going to already have that mindset of rear-wheel drive performance vehicles. They're more dangerous. You're going to kill yourself. That's kind of what people are going to be thinking no matter what. The moment that you say you want a rear-wheel drive vehicle. The other thing though with that is that other people, they don't drive them. So for them, it is a much more alien feeling of having a rear-wheel drive car versus a front-wheel drive car. They're going to be like, this is completely different. I don't know how to handle this. And it feels different. The driving characteristics is different. It's not like ungodly, like you're gonna get in it and you're not gonna know, you know, how to even like, you know, go to the store. But when you're starting to push the car a little bit more, like doing more spirited driving, a little bit more fun driving, you are gonna notice some key differences in the driving characteristics of that car versus inside of a front wheel drive car. So other people, their opinion is going to be much more of, that's a dangerous car, just because it feels slightly different than a front wheel drive car. And the other thing is though, with rear wheel drive cars, since they are more rare, they are essentially rarer than front wheel drive cars. To get the most horsepower, like you're going to be spending a lot of money instead of a rear wheel drive car versus a front wheel drive car. You can go right now, find any like Honda Civic, you know, for like, yeah, you can get a Honda Civic, it'll be light, you know, and it'll be fun. And you can spend what, like $2,000 right now on like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever. You can get yourself a nice, decent, you know, Honda Civic. Spend a little bit more, spend yourself like, you know, like $5,000. You can get yourself a nice front wheel drive like performance vehicle that's actually like spec'd out pretty decently. For that same money, to try to get a rear wheel drive car, only thing you're going to be able to find usually is like old Camaros, old Mustangs. You're not going to be able to get the V8 Mustangs. I mean, if you do, they're going to be pretty beat up. If you're looking at new cars, like right now, because that's what me and fiance we're doing right now, looking at like newer cars and like new cars. Cheapest like front wheel drive car you can get, I mean, it's like, I think they're like less than like 20. You can get like anything from like Hyundai, or even like you know, like a what is it, like a Chevy Spark or whatever. You can get those things like really cheap, like less than like 20 grand. The cheapest rear wheel drive car, I believe you can get like the Fiat 124 or whatever it's called. I think that's still like mid 20s. Like even like a Miata is like still mid 20s for like just like a base model. So as you can see, and those aren't even like fast. They have like 100 something horsepower. But rear wheel drive, it is more expensive because of the front wheel drive layout. It's just cheaper to make, and generally speaking, there's less components to break since they don't have a drive shaft. And yeah, so rear wheel drive is typically more expensive, and if you want to get a faster rear wheel drive car, you're gonna have to spend a lot more money. When it comes down to what I prefer to drive, once again, I like driving rear wheel drive cars. There's something about it, the feeling about it, and just that, and they are, you know, they are much more performance oriented. They are much more performance cars. That's just the way that they are. Now, don't get me wrong, I think front wheel drive cars are great as well. I had one before, like my first quote unquote performance car. I don't even know really what you consider it. My 2000 Mitsubishi Eclipse. I loved that thing when I first got it. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. That was like my first like cool car where I was like, this thing is like really, really cool. I don't even know how old I was, but you know, I think they are cool. It's something about rear wheel drive. Once you kind of get to that point, it's kind of hard to go back. I'm not saying I wouldn't own a front wheel drive car, you know, ever, but for me personally, I just enjoy rear wheel drive. But yeah, guys, so that's just my opinion. Let me know, what is your opinions down in the comment section below. Let me know. Do you guys like rear wheel drive, front wheel drive? What do you use as your daily driver? Do you use rear wheel drive or front wheel drive? Because yeah, I mean, we're still in the process. Like right now, me and my fiance, she's looking for another car. She wants something that's going to be cooler, and I think she kind of wants something that's going to be a little bit fun. So we're looking at a couple different things. Who knows? She might get a rear wheel drive car. She might not. We'll see. Because right now, she's definitely enjoying driving the Challenger. So yeah, we're having some fun with that. But like that, guys, I'm gonna end the video here. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked this video, give it a like. Follow me on Instagram, OmegaGreed, the same name as the YouTube channel. And like that, we're out of here, and goodbye.